Hello and welcome to Main Character Energy. Today we're in conversation with someone who's an artist, a writer, a poet, and an entrepreneur. So she wears many hats. And we're going to get right into her career and how she's doing so many things. So let's welcome Devangana Mishra. Welcome to the show, Devangana.
Welcome, Devangana.
Be here, Kairaz and Anjali. This is awesome. Thank you. This is like such a cool podcast that you guys run. I'm just really excited to be here. Thanks.
No, we're very excited to have you on the show as well. So in fact, usually we've had a lot of male guests for obvious reasons because we like to we like to put them in the hot seat and like make them
Of course.
objectify them, etc. No, but it's so good to actually speak to a fellow author, a fellow writer,
Awesome.
because we've had a lot of conversations about Bollywood and the industry, but this is actually our industry as well, right? Writing and publishing.
Right.
So this conversation is going to be very exciting for all of us, I think.
That is amazing.
Yeah, so I would love to just know, how did you get started writing? I mean, have you been writing since you were a kid? How did you start?
I mean, I think like most writers kind of like start off writing when they were kids. Different reasons inspire them. But yeah, I mean, I grew up in small towns. My dad was always moving around, so I just like was always writing and reading and doing things. And then my like we lived in Udaipur, so my dad would be like, "Acha, ye wali story achhi hai, let's send this for this competition somewhere." So then you just kind of like start building on your talent even when you're little, when your parents are a little bit like udhar bhejo, udhar bhejo. And then also my mom is a psychologist, and then she became a school principal. But before that, she was a psychologist. So she'd bring home kids with Down syndrome, autism, learning disabilities. At that time, none of this was really even diagnosed. So they would just like come and hang out at our home. So I would teach them reading and writing. So I think it was a mix of these two things that got me into writing. And yeah, I've been like writing across genres and domains and organizations, and for different reasons now for like I don't want to tell you my age, but for very long.
No, don't tell. We don't discuss
But
age
also,
on
you
this.
look very young. So, I mean, I'm sure you're younger than us.
Yeah,
Let's keep it at that.
yeah, totally.
No, age is never discussion here among us as well. So don't worry about that. But your first book, it has a very interesting title.
Yes.
It's 26.
Civil Line.
Civil Line.
No, Ridge.
Kamla Nehru.
Come on,
You
guys.
You have to tell us.
It's a memory test.
It's very interesting one. Is it what play is a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. So it's basically like about a house in in Delhi, that area, Kamla Nehru Ridge, where Delhi University is.
Yeah.
So it's a house there. It's called 26 Kamla Nehru Ridge, Civil Lines, Delhi. So basically the address of a house there. And it's set in pre-independence India, about a Muslim girl's journey through that decade. So that's what it was like a specific address.
What is it? It's a fiction. Is it a fiction?
I mean, it's a like a kind of narrative fiction, both written in verses. Yeah.
But what inspired you to actually write about pre-independent India? It's a very interesting time, and like are you a history student who's just been interested in like history?
Yeah. I'm just a reader and a watcher, but I think like I think as writers, as fellow writers, like it's always good to our ability is to imagine something and then put it to words so that somebody else can imagine that and take that. And I think when I wrote this book, there was like a big like Hinduism going on in India in every way, a lot of like that stuff. So, and because I work with lots of schools also, there were parts of like Islamic history that were being deleted, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So that like was my first instigation for the idea, because which is like the hardest thing as a writer, like kiske baare mein likh. So that kind of gave me the idea that I want to write something about the Muslim era, the Mughal time, pre-independence India, all of that. And then I thought the easiest would be to like actually write like one girl's story in a small house in Kamla Nehru. And she was like, it's basically the story of this girl Zara Malik who lives. It's a story from 1939 to 1947 Delhi. And it's just like sometimes you don't hear like an individual's perspective. So because I've read like so much, like watched and read so much rubbish around that time, it's just like a story of a Muslim girl who just is like, I don't understand the larger politics. I don't want to leave my home. I don't want some political bureaucracy to be like taking me out of my little home. And she was in love with a Hindu man. And it's just basically like a Muslim girl's fight. to not have to move to Pakistan, but to remain in India.
Yeah,
that's so interesting. You know, I must say, I love books set in this era because so Independence, I'm sure you've read it, right? It's a wonderful book. And then there's also A Suitable Boy, which has been my favorite book for years now. So, I mean, I'm sure like these books have they also inspired you, or like which Indian authors do you actually, seek inspiration from?
I mean, I read a lot. So like when I was growing up, there were always like, every possible Bikram Ghosh to, Rabindranath Tagore's poetry and all of that at home. Recently, like, I mean, I think a little bit of my reading depends on the kind of genre or the kind of topic that I'm working on. So, my next book is set in Bombay. So I got Siddharth Dhanwan Sangvi's book set in Bombay. I got, a lot of like Bombay underworld mafia kind of books to kind of like, so I think like sometimes you read, I mean, life gets so busy that you don't have like leisure time to read. So a lot of my reading sometimes is either like focused on the academic topic I'm teaching or the book that I'm working on.
So the next book is called Am I Bombay, right?
Bombay. Yeah, I'll talk about that also.
We need to know about that. But before that, for your first book, it's a verse poetry book. It's written in verse format. We would love to hear a little bit. At least the audience and our listeners and our viewers would like to know a little bit. So a little small extract from it. Yeah.
Amazing. And you know what's really cool, guys? Like, I'm sure like you guys say some mantra or some God's prayer or something. So poetry and verses were actually our first form of human communication. So like tribals, early man, like they didn't speak in language. They kind of like, even like their at that time, like they were trying to form societies, tribals that, drink water, eat food, don't fight with each other. Yeah. So that larger societies remember it was spoken in verses and poetry.
Right.
And so it's basically like the smallest unit of writing. And I think that's kind of what naturally the book came to be in. So I'll read a little verse, but basically this is like towards the end, maybe it's essay 30. When like this Muslim girl, Zara Malik, is saying, I'll do, like she tells her lover who's a Hindu man that, I'll do whatever to kind of like keep our home here and hook, crook, whatever, right? So I'll somehow just like keep our home here. Mm-hmm. So it's called May 3rd, 1943. Play, right? So it's like she's playing. We dug 12 inches of earth. When you take a hand and a span of fingers, it seems too shallow. So I dug my wedding ring in, covered it in mud. You kept yours. A little bit away was Cliff Kalimba. So she's saying, I just a little bit more and I can save this home. So a little bit away was Cliff Kalimba. Standing at the tip, we could see really far. When you take photographs, backgrounds merge into you. It all seems so near. I'm going to plant a candy cane on our grave to remind us where I'd left our life if we ever forgot.
Oh.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That was lovely. Yeah. So, like with poetry, I mean, I think for me, when I started writing, I actually started writing poems when I was younger. That's how I started. And then somehow, as I got older, I found that I couldn't write as much poetry. And that's when I moved to writing fiction as well as nonfiction. And recently, there have been certain surges where like I've had like, I've been able to write poetry every now and then. But yeah, in general, a lot of people say there isn't much of an audience for poetry in today's day and age, right? So, I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think there are people who appreciate, good poetry, or like, is it dying? What do you think?
I think it's everlasting, everlong. Especially at the time of AI and all that we live in, like poetry is never ending. I think, what happens to us as adults is, when we're kids, like poetry comes really naturally to us. Like, it's like a rap song. But as we get older, we start to overthink it a little bit also. Word like go and all of that. But I think poetry is like an undying art form.
Yeah, it'll never, It's been there since like ever. And it's going to always be there. People who like poetry will like poetry. It's as simple as that.
It makes you pause.
But I want to know about your second book. That is like, is it poetry again?
It is a little bit of poetry, but like my problem, you guys are right. Like the thing is, people enjoy poetry, but not too many people like end up actually buying poetry. They want to be like hardcore fiction read, right? So my next book, I've now been in Bombay. So I was in Hong Kong right before this. I moved to Bombay about 7 years ago, and it's almost like either you have a 7-year itch and you run out of the city, or you just stay there and you pay homage to the city. So my next book, so stubbornly, like I've stayed on for longer now. So my next next book is set in the 80s of Bombay. It's like an homage, a respect to the city. It's set in 1980 to 1993 of Bombay. And that was a very interesting time because, we saw like a big change of politics in India from like a Congress-led, Gandhi-led government to completely like glass soil. BJP came into power, Bombay riots of 93, lots of Bollywood like went from black and white to color. So it's basically a girl, Savitri Dhavle from Madala East, her life and how that transforms with the backdrop of everything else changing. So how like, your life changes with everything else that changes behind you. And yeah, she was like just like a free girl of Adala East and how politics, Bollywood, love, all of that like impacts her as her life goes, and then it ends in 1993 with the riots and the bomb blasts.
That sounds
So I can see that you like exploring female characters and political and history and to merge everything together because it's something that is really intriguing you as well, right? You you get into the depth of the girl that you're writing about,
yeah. Because then I can put passion into her character. I can put like big imagination. So I like that.
That's lovely. Okay, and then we'd also, another amazing thing you're doing is actually with the work you do with kids who have autism. So can you tell us a bit about what exactly do you do? How do you help them? And just take us
amazing. So I actually I studied autism. So I wanted to study writing. I'm sure like you guys, what did you guys study?
So I studied business science, marketing. So not related. But then I chose the most creative specialization, which was marketing, and then I kept writing along the way. So that's
Yeah. How about you? Where do you study?
I studied love.
That's the best language.
You got any answers? How come you're still so clueless then?
I want to study what you studied. That's awesome. No, so I thought I'm going to go study an MFA, and then that passion that kids on the spectrum of autism, kids with Down syndrome, like all of that that instigated more of my writing, like that doing than anything else. So I went and I studied autism and intellectual disabilities in New York. This was back in 2009. And I've been in the field of like writing, the arts and autism ever since. I work with big organizations, big schools, writing curriculum for them, advising them on inclusion, blah, blah, blah. And then I moved to India in 2018 and 2019, when I was on the leadership team of Teach for India, which like works with hundreds of low-income schools. Takes like brilliant people like you and me and like grills us and puts us into a fellowship. So I saw like the work that they're doing with low income schools, and that kind of gave me the idea that there's not much going on with autism and low income schools. So now what we do is we take we like recruit young people who have 4 to 5 hours in their day, who have a background of psychology, counseling, mental health, and we train them in autism rigorously and put them in a low income school for 1 year. So that's what Brain Bristle does. Other than that, we do a lot of advocacy building, awareness. I host a lot of poetry and writing workshops. So we bring our team together who talk about the work we do with autism. And we've just seen like magic, guys, like magic. Kids who couldn't get into a school and sit and hold a pencil today are like going on like picnics, reading, writing, going on friends ke saath play dates, simply because we've been able to intervene and put things like guardrails so that they don't fall out.
We'd love to know more about it even after the show because
come see the work. Like you guys will just
be. So the foundation is called the Brain Bristle Foundation.
Brain Bristle Foundation,
right? Am I right? And is it's your own foundation?
It's my own foundation.
Your own.
It's my own.
Okay.
That's amazing. Well done on that, because what the thing is, you're right about this, that even though it is 2026 and there is so much information available on the internet, but forget like lower income, even in like upper middle class households, etc., the knowledge about autism, ADHD, all of these learning disabilities, things like that, it's still not that much. Or parents are also in denial. Sometimes even if they see the signs, they don't want to kind of act on it. And early intervention makes all the difference when it comes to any of these, right? So I think that's amazing that the work you're doing. And then of course with lower income households, it'll be so much more difficult for them to detect, etc. So that's great that you started this. Well done on that.
No, it's really, really good, good work that we see every day.
How do you, but that's another question, like how do you feel when you meet these kids? Like you seem to be a person with a lot of empathy and compassion. Do you
honestly, I've
You have to
been in
be,
this
right?
field
To have
for
a foundation like that, you just have to be.
yeah. I mean, I've been in this field for so long. It's like almost like 20 years that, like now I'm very like almost like regimented about it.
Yeah.
Get to school, get things together because like some of these kids are so bright. Like honestly, whatever I've learned in my life, even my writing, my history, my understanding of politics is because of like high schoolers, middle schoolers on the spectrum of autism because, they were just like geeks. They knew like December 22nd, 1634, this is what happened. Like some kids would be obsessed with artificial intelligence, French Revolution. So to work with them, you just had to like study a lot. So
Yeah.
I've just like everything in my life I owe to these children and yeah, like they're just the funniest, coolest, whoever they are, kids. Actually, you know what's super cool is on our team, so our social work team who works with low income schools, we've recruited two young people who are on the autism spectrum. They're so talented. They're so brilliant. Yeah, it's just
That's
insane.
amazing because you're creating now job opportunities for them
Yeah,
also, which is so
yeah,
good. Like it's back into the which is great.
Yeah.
yeah,
Actually, the thing is that, I mean, going back to your books,
yeah.
I want to know how much do you devote to writing because you seem to be busy with this as well. So, how are you able to find time to even write in those days? Because you must be doing several other things as well.
Yeah.
There's
I think
art.
that's actually good, no?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
I
it's
think so. Living a
right.
life, doing something else
We
along
love,
with
yeah,
it.
we are totally for
Yeah,
that.
I think you need
Totally.
experience
We
to
keep
kind of
doing 10 things
Totally.
at one time. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Totally. The more consumed you are in the world, I think the raw, the better your writing is. Even like when I'm like doing a poetry workshop or something, the more consumed I stay with people, the more like my energy feels
Yeah.
alive. But yeah, I like going back to your question, I kind of like I'm very disciplined with my calendar. So it's almost like I believe in like three big rules. Which is like focus, like really have the intention. You want to write, then you have to have the intention कि मेरे को बहुत अच्छी writing करनी है. Then have focus, right? So I block like 6:30 to 8 in my calendar is blocked for writing
Oh, yeah.
time. So it's like I firstly have like a strong intention that yes, I want my next book to do well. Focus and then awareness. Like, you can be sitting on a computer for like 2 hours and not doing anything. Or like, wanting to write a book, but like just like doing whatever.
Yeah.
Or like just be really aware that is this my best work or can I do better? Right. So these three rules have really helped me push myself and keep myself as a competition rather than anybody else or anyone else.
Yeah. So the rules are you focus.
Focus.
Yeah.
Like first intention, right? Like you have to have an intention. Maybe best foundation hoga, like my love life will be the best or whatever else, right? So like first is intention. Then is like your focus, right? Like then then dedicate time towards it if you have the intention to it, and then be aware whatever you're doing in that time is that actually good or am I just doing it to like self pat
That is true.
Yeah.
So that's really nice. It's helpful for even people who are listening.
Yeah.
And now that you mentioned love life, we're coming
now
to
we're
a
going
lot
to
of
get
questions.
juicy questions, which is what we were waiting to ask anyway. But yeah, just for we love putting people on the spot. But are you single? Are you in a relationship? Is it complicated?
You don't have to tell us. You don't tell us.
I mean, we will ask. It's up to you if you want to answer. Or is it complicated? Or
Look, accordingly, we have those questions.
I think the problem with men these days is they're just like they wait till the last minute कि commit करना है कि नहीं करना. Like are we together or like so I'm like in a place of like they're cool men. There's like somebody who might like me. I might like him, but like there's no
so you're single, so now we can go ahead and have all the questions.
Basically, we have fun questions with regard to dating. So this is easy. This is a quick game, and you just have to say yay or nay, and why you're saying yay or nay. Okay. So you meet a guy, and he replies in 3 to 5 business days. So is that a yay or a nay?
Nay.
Yeah, I know. Because how much time does it take to like survive? Right? Yeah. Fair. Okay. Did you want to ask the next one?
You can ask.
Okay, so he says I don't believe in labels, which is what we were just talking about. So is that a yay or a nay?
I mean, it's the thing is, guys, whatever you're asking me, is like everything that all the men that have ever done anything would do.
I think we all had that experience. Actually,
the men it's a nay. Like if you're together, you're together. Yeah.
Okay. Reads books, but only quotes self-help.
Nay.
Yeah, I know, me too. Because I know there are a lot of people who are like, oh, I don't like fiction, I only like non-fiction. I'm like, but why? Fiction is what like opens your mind, and then I know you have an imagination and like.
Yeah.
Okay. Has a notes app apology ready?
Oh God. Yeah.
Nay, right? Okay. Sends voice notes instead of texts. Now, this is debatable. Some people enjoy voice notes. Yeah, I think.
I think
Yeah,
you like voice notes. She keeps sending voice notes.
sometimes.
So
Yeah.
Depends on the voice of the guy, right? Like
Oh,
there's
yeah, I know if it's an annoying voice, and I'm like, why do I have to listen to this?
good voice, and you pronounce words nicely, then it's a yeah.
Oh, yeah. True. Okay. Says I'm emotionally unavailable, which is like half the male population, right? Not even more than
all of them mostly.
80%.
Nay.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Still friends with all exes. Now, I mean, this is something which certain people are okay with. I don't know.
Totally no.
Still, for you,
I'm like, totally no, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, she's the love guru. I'm going with whatever you're saying. No, so it's a no.
She's a self-proclaimed love guru. I don't think she really has any answers. She'd like to believe she has answers, but no. Okay. Watch
no.
crime documentaries for comfort.
Sure.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
actually, it's been proven that people who watch a lot of crime documentaries, they're not the most mentally stable. So I think if it's like if they watch it every now and then, it's okay. But if that's all they're
What about the
consuming,
people who write crime, who write crime?
I mean, but even that, like I think you'll know. So even people who write crime, because it does take a toll on you, I think they consume lighter stuff, then they read lighter books or watch lighter things, right? But if someone is only obsessed with like crime and like dark shit, then I would be a little concerned personally. I think.
Okay.
I mean, I'm like, I'm in the space of you can consume whatever you want to in your own time, like whatever, other than pornography, like
Yeah.
come on. But like I'm okay with like crime documentaries, dark, deep, like whatever shit. Like I don't like I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Okay, great. So that's a yay for you. Okay, now it's another one. Just speak your truth. Okay, answer as honestly as possible. I'll give you a scenario. So your ex texts you, hey. That's it. What do you reply? Just a hey. And you want him to text you, so you just say hey.
No, you don't have to give context. Your ex has texted you, hey, and so now what do you do? Your move now. What would it be?
I'll like put a question, like I'll put a question mark on the like I'll the the red emoji question mark. I'll put that on the hey.
Yeah.
I think for that question, it actually depends on how the last relationship ended. Like if it was a bad one, and then someone saying hey, then you're like, why are you talking to me? But if it was civil, then probably you wonder. Like,
you accidentally send a screenshot to the person you screenshotted.
I've done this now.
With a small comment, I can't believe this.
Have you ever?
I'd like, I mean, I send wrong texts or like done shit like that, and then I just throw my phone and I'm just like, fuck. But yeah,
and then they sometimes they're like, I saw what you wrote, and then you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. Oh god.
You're on a bad date and the food hasn't arrived yet. What would you do?
I'll wait. Like I'll just sit and like talk about the weather and all.
Yeah, exactly. So
if it was you would make the date worse because she'd just like, where's our food? She'd call the waiter. She's like the most fussy person in a restaurant, which I have to put.
I like content for writing, so I'll be like, "Acha, fir aur bata." Like I'm always like content.
Yeah,
true. You see your 1-star review about yourself trending.
Oh,
God. A 1-star review trending is like okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd just shut my eyes. Like I'm very like non-confrontational about this. I'm like, chalo, like whatever.
But you know what? I must say, like the first time you get a bad review, it does affect you. Like now, of course, with me as well. So I have 4 books out, right? So thankfully, majority have always been good reviews, but you'll get that one odd person who doesn't like your work or whatever, right? And the very first for my first book, I remember the very first time I saw like a 1-star and whatever, like a mean review, I was just so hurt and I was like, oh my God, and why does this person hate me? And I had like a very emotional reaction to it. Then I think you develop a thicker skin as with each book and with then you're
and then that kind of like sometimes forces me to work harder whenever I get like bad feedback or criticism anyway. It does.
Wow.
Like I'm very like I'm like instead of being defensive, I'm very like submissive.
You're like, a very generous person.
No, because I realize
I would call them and get so violent.
No, because I realize like you see it even with movies, right? Sometimes the best movies, which like say you see like 95% of the world likes it, you will get that one odd person who's like, what is this piece of crap? So you can never make anyone happy, right? So as long as like majority kind of like your work and the kind of audience you want is enjoying it, then I think it's fine.
I don't know. I'm such a friend that if they write bad about your book, I'll call them and I'll fire them.
That's it. I have friends
I'm
like
that
that.
type of person. Like, I would not take crap.
You have not after this.
Yeah, we will, we will,
We
we will.
should.
So now that we realize that we have the same opinions on the red flags of men,
Yeah,
I
that's
I
it.
think that's like all the women of the world anyway, but
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what is
okay,
it?
what's been your worst date ever? Like, worst you can think of.
Worst. I haven't dated a lot. I'm just thinking worst date. Oh, I can't
If you
think.
don't have worst, it can also be a funny, like the funniest or the most, like something random.
Yeah, I'll tell you my worst date, like worst date, right? So when I just moved to Bombay, there was like somebody I'd been chatting with for really long. You know, we she's like really got along really well. We chatted a lot. It was so great. I was like, "Ye to like Prince Charming mil gaya."
Right.
And then we
That
met
itself should be a warning bell, by the way.
that person. Like I was just like, what the hell? Like it was almost like somebody else had been chatting. Like it was just
Really?
like
No,
there
really.
was nothing. We had
Like,
like
he
we had
was,
So he was good at texting, but when you met in person, he
text. Like in person, like he was distracted, I was distracted. We
oh
had nothing.
God.
I hate that. Yeah.
Like he was
That's
like
not
asking me, "That charge ka special kya hai?" I was texting my cousin, "You coming?" Or like it was
There was just no chemistry. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Some people
yeah.
are very good at banter and stuff when you're texting.
Yeah.
And then you
It's
meet,
like
and
it
then,
was so
yeah.
bad. Yeah.
Mm.
But I mean that's almost heartbreaking also, right? Because like you just build up all these plans
That's
with
the thing.
banter.
I was just gonna say we build it up, right? And that's the thing. I was reading a very interesting thing which said generally, like, say you like a guy, there's a vibe, you like someone, they like you. That's the point when we get so excited and we're like, oh my God, this was that's just the starting point. After that, you is when you'll actually get to know the person. There's so many levels to the whole thing that you shouldn't
Totally.
get so excited when it's just like a
And it's
attraction. Yeah, yeah.
you you live and learn, you live and learn.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Basically, a man in general is a red flag. We ask red flag, green flag. He is a red flag himself, right?
Yeah, I mean, she had
Agreed.
very extreme opinions. I feel like there are good guys out there, but it's few and far between. But it's it's there.
Hey guys, like I think that sometimes like women have to work really like with autism you have to work very hard. I think like with men also you have to work really
Yes,
hard
yes.
for them to get good.
Yes,
So
yes,
like I've
correct.
seen my sister-in-law, right? Like she's been at it. So like after like so many years, my brother finally, I would be like, "Thoda sa theek hai, aajkal thoda theek chal raha hai." But like I think you really have to like work hard with a guy, and like then you have to check their resilience. कि अब वो रहेंगे, कि like they're
That's the
just
thing. You work hard and then you go up with some
Yeah,
other
and then
woman. All
you
goes.
basically paid him lines for another woman, basically, which happens to a lot of women, by the way. But
which happens to a lot of women. Yeah.
So, what is the most toxic trait that you find in a man, like for you, like the most toxic, like what you'd never tolerate?
And like cheating, like I
that's
was
just,
just
I mean, that's a non-negotiable.
literally no.
Yeah.
But otherwise also like anger issues and stuff like
Yeah.
I just can't do it.
Yeah, because you seem to be you seem a calm person. So I don't think someone really in a relationship I'm talking about, like someone really angry or volatile or something.
Let's guess your sun sign.
Yeah,
Do you believe in sun sign? But now don't tell us. Okay, wait, I'm gonna guess. Yeah, I'll guess 3. So then, okay.
That's why I said 3.
Wait, let me
Libra.
Yes. Okay, wait, now
quick.
I have to guess. Wait. Okay.
She's
Cancer. No. Okay.
I'm Cancer.
Yeah, I
She's
know.
anything like
No, I mean, okay.
Yeah.
Pisces. No.
She's guessing the very docile sign. You'll be surprised. She might be
Sagittarius.
No.
Okay, now we've got
Okay,
Gemini.
Okay, we failed. We completely failed.
I'm a Leo. Like I'm like a purring Leo. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just like the calm before the storm.
Yeah. No, that is a calm. Like I'm just like calm.
Yeah. So Devangana, actually, you must have worked yourself to be calm, no? Like, are you always been like this, or you do meditation? You seem like you do meditation. You do a lot.
Yeah, I do yoga, meditation. I work out every day. But I think the field that I'm in, like as in autism, in autism and education, like you just need high levels of calm. So I think like I've just got trained in it after all these years.
Yeah. What's your final aim I would like to know as an author, because we all write, we always try to market our books and things. So do you write because you want people to really feel something, or do you write because you of course everyone wants to be a bestseller, I guess. So what is your take on writing? Because as an author, we all struggle with marketing, promoting. At the same time, we want to write books that are, people like, but we also want to write what we want. So what's your
Yeah.
take on this?
I want to also hear you guys, but like for me, I think like I only got when independent as a writer like 4 years ago. Before that, I used to write like school curriculums, high school curriculums, blah blah
Right.
blah. But I think like my aim as a writer is to tell stories that nobody has thought of or written yet.
Yeah.
It's like our world should be made, like I almost think of our world should be made up of like trillions of fusing imaginations, and that's what like will keep our universe alive in the age of technology and AI and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So I think like my aim as a writer is like very like self-consumed to write stories that nobody has like thought or imagined or like read before, and then even if it gets to the hands of like 5,000 people, 10,000 people, like I'm happy with that. But yeah, like to just like to tell the best stories that I can tell.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, no, that's very well said, I think, because, like there are times when I meet sometimes younger writers and they're just like, oh, like, why should we write? Like everything that, can be said has already been said, and all of those, that there's that whole opinion also. But I think you'll always have a unique voice, right, as a writer, because we've all have, our lives are so different. Everyone has experienced, like what you've experienced is so unique to your journey. My journey is different. So I mean, you'll always bring that into your work. So even if a plot is similar between say two novels, it'll just be very different because you'll have your kind of experiences coming through. I have mine, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's why that is why you need more people to keep writing and keep reading. So it's never like there are people who are like, oh, what's the point? And I would always say no, because you have your own unique voice, and the world needs to know. Like you should share that with the world, right? So and I think and I agree with you. Like because there's everyone, like you want to tell a unique story which only you could have told, and you want to make an impact in your readers' lives.
Yeah, but in the age of AI, right? Like where do we draw the line? Because you feel strongly about it as well, right? You said it in a couple of posts, and I have I have done a bit of research, and I know that you feel very strongly about it. How does one kind of stop this AI madness coming into our writing world?
I mean, I think it's like about like the industrial revolution came in, right? Like you couldn't stop it. Everything got mechanized. I almost feel, and then like humans found their space in the midst of growing machines. So I think like AI is like another such revolution, except it's coming like way faster and way more like entrenched into our lives than you'd imagine. I think like that's why we need writers and artists to stay alive today, because a writer is somebody who chooses every word, who chooses every expression really, really like carefully, which is what distinguishes a Kainas to an Anjali to a Devangana, three writers, to a ChatGPT or an AI, right? So I think like I think my opinion is like machines will come and the flood will come, but our goal is to keep standing and walk along with it in our best capacity.
Sure. Yeah, that's true. Could you show your book to the audience?
I actually have like completely run out of 26
Well, that's good news there. So then we should put it up with a photograph on a separate this and on a
share the link, and people
share the link. On Amazon, I've actually like hand painted the cover. Even for my next book, I've hand painted the cover.
Okay.
Yeah, I like, even the book has like lots of artwork, which is all like hand painted and hand done. So I think that's what
and we actually haven't spoken about that. You are an artist, so you paint as well, right? So
I do.
Is that also something you've been doing since you were younger, or like, how does it?
Yeah. I mean, I think like most creative people kind of like do a mix of everything together. So yeah,
I'm sure you're good at it if you're doing your own covers. Which is,
I mean, like, I don't know what's good in art.
Art is so subjective. You're so right. I was actually at a gallery yesterday and I wanted to take a picture. I mean, no disrespect to the artist, but I swear it was like the most basic drawing of like a lotus flower. And I just thought that like, I was like, I can do that like a little better. I was like selling for like 2 lakhs or something. And I was just like, okay. And we all know about that one artist who taped a banana on the wall, right? Internationally sold for like whatever billion. So art is very subjective.
So your second book is now when is it happening? Your second book?
If like my publisher and my agents have like going to be back and forth with edits. Ab ye naam hata ke isko alias do, like I don't know everything. So hopefully like this year.
Oh, they're changing the name of the book?
they might also want me to change the name of the book. So there's conversation around that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyways,
see.
I guess in that case, you know best. But we look
So I
forward
think
to it.
for now it's there, and then we'll see.
Yeah.
Like this year it should be out.
Yeah.
This year, no? This year.
This year,
It's gonna be out,
2026. Yeah.
So we look forward to it. Even I think, who knows, our books may this together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never,
Yeah. Please call me for like book launches, book readings, whatever you guys do.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we definitely
We'll
love
do
to.
that. Yeah, we'll definitely do that.
We
But
will.
I would love to call you for our book launches, and
Yes.
we can do something together.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, super cool. I love this podcast. This is super fun and super great. Like, I know we don't have to have too much time, but tell me, how did you guys like get started into this?
Oh, she's turning the tables around. She's
You can
okay. Well, lucky for you, we love talking about it. That's not joking.
We got that about you a long time ago.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Both of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we actually met at a literature event where I was moderating a session and she was speaking. And that's when there was a vibe, we connected. And then, but that was in Gurgaon. And then I moved back to Bombay. And we used to meet, we used to hang, we've met for coffees and things like that. And then one of those times when we were exchanging stories, we were just like, oh my God, we're so funny. Like, we should have a podcast.
We found ourselves
we
fun.
were like, oh, we should have a podcast of our own. And then I think after that, when we had that conversation, I think we acted on it quickly, which is good.
Yeah.
And that's something I want to tell, that's my advice to anyone who wants to start something. Don't sit on something too long, because sometimes you get an idea and you're like, all fired up, but then it dies down after a while, and then you're like, should I? And the naysayers get in your head sometimes. I think thankfully we kind of didn't sit on it too long. And we just said, let's go for it.
Devangana, it's your philosophy, right? In a way.
Yeah,
There's so many things.
So intention and focus, right?
Correct.
Best, like totally get into it. So that's 100% true. And I also feel like it's like I don't know if you guys realize it or not, but listening, like you guys just doing so much listening. Like I've read so much research on it, but listening is like a really important act of community building, because like as listeners, you're listening from everybody and then you're giving it back into the world, and then you're listening and you're giving it back into the world, and that's really good, like energy transpiring. So that's super cool, right? Like, and as writers, I think we just need to listen a lot. So it must be like super cool to run this podcast.
Yeah, but that's such a nice take on it, and I agree, because sometimes people ask me like, oh, when did you know you wanted to be a writer? And I didn't know when I was a kid, but I think I was always interested in other people. Like when I'd meet new people, I would always want to know people's life stories. Hence the intrusive questions about like, are you single? What's your, whatever. But I like knowing about. I actually like knowing about people, and I think it comes from there, because as a writer, you're like thinking, I guess, in terms of characters, and you just like getting to know people, right? Like that's.
I don't want to know anyone.
You don't want to know gossip. Wasn't that give me the latest gossip?
Like, who wants to know about people? I don't know your life story. I mean, okay, great. I mean, like,
What did say? I thought you love all my stories. Oh man, need to find a new audience.
Can you imagine what I go through, Devanga? Yeah, now
I love your life. We need to like hang out. I love your life.
We have to take this like offline. We will definitely hang out with you, because we loved your energy. Even though we've not sat in person, we actually love your energy and love speaking with you. I think.
And thank you for being on our podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on Main Character Energy. It's been a pleasure having you.
Totally.
And we wish you best for your next book and all your endeavors.
Yes.
And with the foundation, which is doing immense work, which honestly, like, this is something we could really talk about more, because we both feel very strongly about special needs and autism. I mean, I think it's something that needs to be addressed today, because the knowledge is so little bit. Yeah. It's so little bit, this knowledge. People don't really acknowledge these children. And it is, you don't, it's like, you say, oh, this is a disability. And you're just, you're put on the side. Even normal children have it hard. So these kids will be having it so much harder.
There's so much work that needs to be done in that space, but kudos to you.